Everything you learned in history class was a lie. Well, maybe not everything, but they skipped the best parts. Introducing Stupiracy, where stupidity meets conspiracy. Ever heard of the Olympic marathon that nearly killed its runners? Or the time a pope put another pope's corpse on trial? Join me, Scott Rizzuto, and Tim McKernan as we uncover the most outrageous historical moments and mind-blowing conspiracies you won't believe actually happened. Tune into Stupiracy for your weekly dose of historical absurdity. Available wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, history is dumb, but laughing at it is smart.
And now, live from the TCL broadcast studios, it's Joe Souchere and Patrick Royce with Sports Talk.
That fanfare is for none other than Patrick James Stephen Royce returning to Sports Talk live from Southwest Florida.
I've gone to Australia for Olympics and not missed as much radio as I just missed right now. It's I'm back, though, and we're here for the rest of the spring. I'm in Fort Myers right now. It's in the 70s today, a little cloudy. It's been cold down here, just like everywhere else in the country, but it's warming up a little. They got the new netting in at Hammond Stadium, so you can't get hit with a foul ball behind. They just put it in today behind the dugouts, and there was a little more damage down here than they let on at the stadium. But they thought it was kind of tacky to complain about damage at a ballpark, so they just said minimal damage. But the stands are fine, everything's fine. I see there's very few advertising boards. I don't know if they just don't put them up later or what, but the press box got the hell beat out of it, and they have rebuilt it now. So. But, you know, that one big area of the press box, it has all the electronics and that stuff. Mm-hmm. That's the one window that didn't blow out. So they didn't lose all those computers and all that other stuff. The scoreboard stayed up. There was a little damage on the third floor and some stuff blown over here and there. I guess the Red Sox got a little worse. But as I said, you know, when they're still trying to get electricity on at the hospitals, you can't say, hey, get over here and fix our ballpark.
We need some roughers over here.
So they were just winding her down right now. It looks like they're finished up here now, but when I was here last week, they were still working on the press box. Well, worst thing, though, Friday, when I was here Friday, both elevators were out.
Oh, no.
So my annual spring trek up the steps came early this year.
To an empty stadium.
Well, biggest question then, Patrick, is how is the Gladden beer fridge in the press box?
I came up today, checked it, saw it was open, and then went out and bought my Diet Coke.
Attaboy.
So I'm ready to roll.
Attaboy.
I am ready to roll. The fridge is back in, and I was very worried about that. Didn't know what I was going to do. Now, I wanted to talk before we get going. I don't know how much you did this with Hauser. But, Rook, you and I are right now talking to the most optimistic, overconfident man in America. A beautiful wife, 2 children, and for no reason on God's green earth, he flies to Jacksonville to see the worst NFL playoff game ever played. And it was predictably the worst NFL. It wasn't like you got there and were surprised that both teams basically stunk.
Right.
It was, you knew going in, Reuvers.
Yep.
How do you get away with these things?
You know, it's interesting. Successful negotiating is one of the things I've been pretty good at.
What'd you do? Was steal a diamond bracelet or some damn thing?
Here's how I negotiated the plan with the bride. I said, here's the deal, hon. I got a ticket waiting for me with people that she knows, and I said, I'm in morning of, and I'm out that night. I'm in and I'm out. I'm flying in. I'm going to the game, and I'm coming back home.
A lot of Bills fans on that flight back to Minneapolis?
Patrick, I ended up flying really late Saturday, and I arrived early on Sunday.
Okay.
on my Minneapolis, so I flew to Orlando, drove up to Jacksonville.
Sure, that makes sense.
On my because you couldn't get a direct flight to Jacksonville. Right. Okay. So on my flight to Orlando, there were 15 people that were there to go to the game who either flew from, whether they flew from Buffalo or other parts of the country, I have no idea.
But the Bills fans basically terrorized Jacksonville for a whole weekend, right?
That poor city had no idea what was about to hit them. It was almost like a tropical storm that was not being forecast at all. I couldn't believe it. They absolutely took over that city. And I told this to Rook and to Manny, who's in here too. I told them before this, when I was getting into town and you kind of walk around the stadium beforehand and go to the various lots, they all knew they probably weren't going to win, but they were just treating this like a vacation. Or as the superstar told me off the air, they treated this like a bowl game.
It couldn't be more than 40 degrees, though, right? It was cold down here.
It was cold when I got to town at about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning yesterday, and it warmed up to about 56, I think, during the course of the game, but they didn't care.
The ones that were very cold, Patrick, they decided they would warm up by jumping onto tables and splitting them in half.
My favorite.
Yes, I saw that.
So my favorite was
they make Bears fans look like just good citizens. So really, they do.
You've been to the Jacksonville football stadium, correct?
Yes, I have.
So that where you're right before you get to the waterfront, where those freeways kind of go over on top of the bridge there. Underneath that part where there's that giant grassy area ahead of that bay, they essentially had to turn that into a parking lot to accommodate how many people were coming to this game. Mm-hmm. So I pull up in my rental car, and she said, it was $30. She said, park over here. I'm like, can you put me in a spot where I'm not going to get wedged in because there's a decent chance I'm going to leave just before the game ends? And she says, fine, just go park over there. Well, I parked more towards the front entrance. And I kind of walked around to get a little sense of what was going on. The grills were already going. The guys were playing football. The kegs were already tapped. And I could sense that the security of the area, Pat, was getting a bit frantic. So when I walked up to the front, the gal who was running the operation that took my money when I first parked looked at me, saw that I was wearing a Bills hat, and she said, "What's wrong with you people?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, because on the CB before she said that, she goes, "What do you mean they started a bonfire?"
Oh, man. And then jumped into it, probably. Sacrificed humans.
Right. We only lost 2 Bill fans. That's okay.
So she looked at me. She said, "What's wrong with you people?" I said, "Well, let me ask you a question, ma'am. Did you tell them they couldn't start a bonfire?"
Right.
And she said, "Well, no." I'm like, "Sorry, this one's on you."
I got to tell you, the first time I was in the Gator Bowl, and this place they rebuilt the Gator Bowl, basically. They redid the whole thing. I think it's the same stadium, though, but they've put a lot of money into it.
Because I think it was when they announced that the Jaguars were going to be an expansion team, they decided to redo the stadium or something like that.
The first time I was there I was on my way to the Nebraska-Miami game, the Great Orange Bowl game after the 83 season, and Iowa was playing Florida in the Gator Bowl. And I stopped there. That was a really good Iowa team that ran into Wilbur Marshall and Neil Anderson and got run out of the building. But there was probably 40,000 Iowans there, and the toilets froze up.
Oh.
Nobody could use the toilets.
Oh, that's not good.
There was some makeshift toiletry going on in that stadium.
Any port in the storm.
And could you imagine the Bills fans?
My God.
Without toilets.
Pat,
it could really be bad.
I was in an area that we had our own bathroom, and we still had a line that was down the aisle. But my favorite story of the trip, and I made Manny Hill wait for this one. So before the game, my good friend Ryan and I, along with his 2 buddies, we had on-field access to do this kind of meet and greet and whatever. So the 4 of us were walking down there. So he and I were fine. His 2 buddies had been overserved.
Oh, no.
Since
evening long?
Yes, basically since they got to town on Friday. But they started tailgating at 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Legendary Jaguars quarterback David Gerard was there along with, I'm assuming it was his wife, and they were doing kind of this really cool fan meet and greet and whatnot.
Yeah.
And these 2 guys, these 2 Bills fans were like, "Hey, they pull out their phones because they want to get a picture.
With Dave Gerard.
And so they snap a photo, which I'm sure wasn't in focus and whatnot. And like, oh, you're the greatest. You're so great. And he walks away and he goes, man, I can't believe we got our picture with Byron Leftwich.
Oh my gosh.
And I said,
no.
Well, you got close.
What the hell? Might as well be Byron Leftwich.
And I thought, should I tell him or should I just let it happen?
Let it happen.
Well, there are some radio shows in this country, radio outlets, that used their minimal travel budgets to go cover the New Orleans game last night, which Carolina game, which was one of the great playoff games in recent years.
Yep.
We, however,
That's right.
scooped the world. We were at Jacksonville and Buffalo. we
scooped the world.
We were at Jacksonville and Buffalo, which, if you were a football fan, almost made you puke.
Oh, God,
it was so
awful.
bad. Blake Bortles is a single wing running quarterback. He's the worst.
He had more rushing yards than passing yards yesterday. It was terrible.
He throws sinker balls.
You guys,
throws sinker balls. He throws a fork ball.
you ought to know how bad the offensive production was yesterday. On that, they have two gigantic scoreboards on both end zones of that field, and on the side, they would show you the statistics throughout the game.
Yes.
Before halftime, I'm not making this up, they took them down.
Really?
Well, they had, I think, a combined 20 yards of offense at the end of the first quarter. That's how awful that game was yesterday.
It was brutal. All right, we'll be back. The winter home of the Ride with Ricey, Hammond Stadium. Pretty quiet down here, although the fantasy people, the fantasy players are here, and the baseball organization meetings are here. So it's actually over on the other side. There's quite a bit of business, and we might be able to get a couple of Twins guests this week because the org meetings are down here. We'll be back.
Now, for the next 10 minutes, you're going to hear a story about my aunt's 80th birthday party.
Oh, good.
And the church yesterday and how I drove up the night before and drove back after the party. And
Really?
how fascinating and interesting it was.
Kenny, I was
Wait, she
asked
turned
about
80?
I was asked about being drunk in the park. I asked him about being there with the Bills fans,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, he took that one and ran, didn't he?
Kenny, you got to hang with these people. They're right on.
right.
They're Alexandria at its finest, man.
They
Yeah.
would ban them from Alexandria.
Are you pro jumping on tables from, say, on top of a porta potty and breaking it in the middle?
About 35 years ago. Yeah.
You've been there, done that, is what
35
Kenny's
years
saying.
Kenny, the best. There's a video that I posted to the Sports Talk page. It's highlights of the Bills Mafia and their antics set to the Titanic theme song.
I'm seeing Bill's Mafia. I'm seeing a lot of belly jiggling going on.
Oh yeah.
Big old heavy male bosoms.
A lot of sweating.
I was up there for 2 or 3 AFC title games, and when the parking lots around there were basically fields rather than pavement, and it would snow a little, and you get the mud. So they were out there drunk in the mud at 11:30, for like 8 hours.
That's dedication.
Then they would clop in there and puke at each other. It was wonderful. That was 30 years ago.
That sounds like Kenny at First Avenue.
Yes.
Buffalo, really. That whole area is just a third world country.
Oh, it
With
has
snow.
turned into
With snow.
It has turned into one. All right, guys. We've everybody's had a few laughs at the expense of Central Florida, claiming to have won the national championship, right?
Yep.
Having a party for it and all of that. Now, it certainly is kind of preposterous and ridiculous, but I wanted to bring this up. In 1984, BYU went 13-0 and was declared the national champions by both the Associated Press and UPI.
Okay.
They clinched their perfect season by beating Michigan, which was a 5-4 team from the Big Ten, and was 6-5 overall. Had lost 26-0 to Iowa. Got beat by Ohio State 21-6. Hell, they only beat the Gophers 31-7. And they played them in the Holiday Bowl. BYU's wins were against a good Pitt team to start the year. then Baylor, which was terrible then, Tulsa, Hawaii, Colorado State, Wyoming they beat 41-38, Air Force 30-25, New Mexico, UTEP, San Diego State, Utah State, and Michigan. And my point is BYU, with a worse resume than Central Florida, was voted national champions back then when we didn't have a playoff. So we should be thankful for the playoff, because they wouldn't even put BYU in the playoff with that resume, and they claimed to be the national champions of 1984. So there, Central Florida's thing is not quite as stupid as it sounds.
So it's not that far-fetched.
No, it's not. They beat Central Florida beat Auburn. Auburn beat both Georgia and Alabama. Then, of course, Georgia then came back and beat Auburn in the SEC title game. But this system we have now gets a lot of abuse. But it gets 4 good teams in the finals and gives us some kind of a playoff. And you are not rewarded just for going unbeaten, no matter who your competition was. You got to beat somebody with this system, which is a good system, and has led to a fine title game tonight, even though Alabama's going to kick the hell out of it.
I agree, and I'm okay with it too. And I was completely in support of what UCF did, only because anybody that gives a giant middle finger to the NCAA, I always fully support.
Except the NCAA is not.
Well,
is the college
I know, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
Well, the Power 5 conference.
Yes.
So anyway, that was, it's. I was. By the way, you look at the BYU stars of that team. Robbie Bosco was the quarterback. That wasn't even one of their great quarterback teams that we ended up voting them the national champion. So the voting system. Listen, our last national championship by the Gophers, they lost a regular season game to Purdue. They were 8-1, and then they had the vote. And then they went out and lost the Rose Bowl to Washington. So they're 8-2, and we can claim it as a national championship. Voting was not the way to go. This is pretty good. So anyway, I like the 4-team playoff. You got to be great to get in there. We don't have to mess around with that first week of. You can still play your silly bowl games. You can still play the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl and all those when they're not in the regular rotation. Everybody has a good time, and the 4-team system works, I believe.
But isn't that always been it's controversy in college? Just find out who is the champion, and they don't. And finally, with the playoff stuff, but now there's still controversy, even with the playoff system.
Well, there was a story I ran across that ran a number of years ago, from 1946 to 1998. There were only 5 national titles that were not claimed by more than one team.
Oh, really?
In other words, yes, like the year that we were the national champions in 1960, I think Mississippi, Ole Miss, also claimed the national championship that year. They won some poll or some award or something like that. The all-timer was when they had the Texas-Arkansas game, and Nixon showed up to give the chief, the commander-in-chief trophy to the winner of that game. And I can't remember who the other. Penn State was very upset because they were also unbeaten and wanting to claim the national championship. So let's play it on the field, which they're doing tonight. That's fine.
All right, sir. Well, you settle down there in Southwest Florida. We're going to break away quickly and. Right now at David's Bridal, select gowns originally $300 to $600 are now $99. Plus, $20 off bridesmaid dresses. Be your own bride. Only at David's Bridal. Sale ends January 17th.
Used to spend my nights out in ballroom.
How was that, Kenny?
Thank you very much, Matthew.
I apologize for cutting you off. Here's your copy back.
Here's Mr. Height.
Thank you, Patrick.
That's what we call in the biz a make good.
Yeah, make good on that. We get a little rusty here.
I was wondering what that was about.
Yes, Pat was calling for what is the mayhem.
You left me a little confused down here, but
you're not the only one. I left myself confused.
Mm-hmm.
It's sunny, and we're up to 36 degrees now in
Wow,
Minneapolis
you're
and St.
half as
Paul.
hot as it is here.
Your tweet the other day was spectacular. Been a rough one in the fort. Haven't taken the top down in a couple of weeks.
In a week. Top down in a week.
Vikings.
It's down now, though.
Yeah, I saw yesterday you tweeted everything's okay.
How much water is it waterlogged or no?
No, we put her up when we park it now. We learned our lesson last year. But yeah, I said nightmare is over.
Yep.
Top down. Yeah.
Vikings will play the Saints in the second round of the NFC playoffs. Saints earning that trip here with a win over Carolina yesterday. It's a 3:40 game on Sunday afternoon.
Let me make a statement about the Saints. That little SOB was as good Sunday as I've ever seen him.
Which
Breeze.
Oh, yeah.
Man, he made some throws. Did you, Manny? Did you think so?
Manny's grabbing some audio.
Manny's grabbing some audio.
But,
man alive, he made some throws.
The one in the fourth quarter, too, where he rushed to the right side of the pocket, that was about as good as it gets right there.
How about the one where he threw it out there to the tight end, Hooper, and the ball he lobbed it out there, and the ball was in the air for about 4 seconds. The guy turned around and thump.
It's like it was in slow motion as the ball's in the air.
Yeah.
So,
man, he's good.
Are you saying they have a shot against the Vikings?
Oh, yeah.
Well, but they dragged about 2 of their offensive linemen off the field. If their offensive line is banged up, they don't have a chance. Yeah. But if it is, they got a shot.
Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James in town tonight for a game against the Wolves. The Wolves are 25-16. They're in first place by 2.5 games in the Northwest Division in the Western Conference. As far as the Wild goes, they don't play until tomorrow, but we found out today Captain Mikko Koivu, he's got the flu, like a lot of other people.
Oh.
He may miss that game tomorrow against Calgary.
Is it sweeping the metro area?
Oh, Patrick, let me tell you, I was tripping like I've never tripped before. You lose it out of both ends for about 8 to 12 hours, and then it's bouts of freezing cold or really sweaty hot, and all you can do is sleep for about 48 hours. And
how about...
Oh, my God, the dreams. Oh, wow. It's like a Grateful Dead concert. It's just awful.
How about the inoculations we received earlier? They don't fight this strain of the flu or what?
I don't partake in those.
Okay, well.
Well, you lose some weight, though, don't you, Kenny?
Mm-hmm.
You lose a little weight, yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah. And don't even think about making it to the bathroom. You're going to need a bucket right next to the bed. Yeah.
You're such a romantic.
Right.
Oh, it was just awful. My whole Christmas vacation was spent sick. The whole thing.
Really?
Yeah.
That'll teach you to take so much time off.
You know why? God hates me.
That's true.
News notes from today. Minnesota has been named the second best state in the U.S. in which to raise a family by the website wallethub.com. Indicators they used include the term family friendliness. That includes family fun, health and safety, education and childcare, affordability, and socioeconomics.
Daddy drinks because you cry.
Hey, John.
Yes.
What's the background of this wallethub.com? What makes them experts?
They do these.
What's their legitimacy?
They've actually been doing them for about 10 years. Different.
Okay.
They always do the city ones.
How do they gain from
livability, all that kind of thing. That I don't know, Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, in case you're wondering, Massachusetts. And we finished right behind them.
They don't take into effect taxes paid, then, I take it. They don't take in the most important thing in Joe Suchere's life,
That's
right?
correct.
It's all based on bike lanes.
By the way, I almost stopped the other day, and then there was a car behind me. I was going to take a photo and tweet it out of, this is what we call a bike lane in Florida. It's about like 7 inches wide with a white stripe there, and these guys are wobbling down there.
And traffic going by at about 65, right?
Paying no attention to them.
Speaking of that, Pat, you were right. People in Florida are insane when they're on the freeway. I left the airport. I'm going about 75 and a 70, and it was like I was standing still at about 2 in the morning on Saturday.
Well, I don't want to be ethnic about it, but here's the problem.
Oh boy.
Yep.
You got 40-year-old white women who are 80 driving, and then you got a bunch of kids who grew up in the Dominican who having the time of their life driving 97, and when that doesn't work. You know,
It's a bad
nobody
mix.
goes 65. They either go 90 or 40. That's the problem.
Too much diversity, huh?
Yes.
Too much diversity.
And you know what is really funny? I'm 72 years old now.
Get
And
off
I
my
spend half my life screaming, "You old son of a!" these people, and then I realize I'm older than they are. The ones that I'm screaming at. Make the light, you old.
Oh,
Make the
there's
light.
nothing worse. There's nothing
That is the
worse.
worst, yeah.
Let's go, Grandpa. I'm younger than you.
The LeSueur County Sheriff's Department reports it's investigating a series of burglaries that took place early Sunday at Elysian bars. A suspect or suspects believed to have broken into Fisher's Corner Bar, the Thirsty Beaver Bar.
Not the Thirsty Beaver.
The beef?
Oh,
Yeah,
I was on a softball team sponsored by that bar.
and Tucker's Tavern.
Wow.
No word on damage to the establishments or what was taken. If you have any info, you are asked to call the LeSueur County Sheriff's Department.
Rookie, you think I'm joking, don't you? I
do.
I was
I
on
do
a
think so.
softball team sponsored by the Thirsty Beaver.
Great underrated lake area of Minnesota.
I
down there.
100%
right,
agree
right
with you.
around there. yeah.
Absolutely.
There's about 3 or 4 of them there.
Publisher of a book that questions President Trump's fitness for office said any effort by Mr. Trump to suppress the book would be flagrantly unconstitutional. In a letter to company employees today and shared with CBS News, Macmillan CEO John Sargent wrote that no American court would go along with the president should he sue to have fire and fury inside the Trump White House withdrawn. Of course, they moved the release date up to last Friday anyway. So at this point, the book is
Oprah
out
and
there.
Trump, let's do it.
Oh, my God.
It'd be
You think it's going to happen?
wouldn't it be great? It'd be fantastic. Because how can he, you know damn well he'd call her fat in a tweet or something, and that would be it,
Right. It would be political suicide.
I did see a clip today on one of the news stations where I believe it was about 10 years ago. He was on a talk show, and they said, if you ran for president, who could be your running mate? He goes, well, what about Oprah? She's, which I thought was kind of
then
interesting.
the picture of Oprah giving Harvey Weinstein a peck on the cheek is all out there already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of concerts coming up at the Xcel Energy Center for baby boomers announced today. Steely Dan and the Doobie Brothers on
Wait a
June
minute.
15th.
Wait a minute. Aren't there some missing members there?
Well, Walter Becker obviously is dead, so
yeah.
that's a
So
problem.
how's
Yeah,
that
tough
gonna
to bring
work?
him back.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. He just
Really?
played a little guitar at the concert.
Really?
Yeah, it'll be fine. Be the same band except for Walter.
Okay, John.
Well, he played about 6 solos, and that was it. When last
Wow,
time I saw him.
You're a real turncoat.
What? I love Walter.
Yeah.
Walter was my guy, but, it'll be fine.
They're not Steely Dan without Walter.
Well, there would be people that say they're not Steely Dan without the original band, but, come on.
Who
it's
is
50
with
years later.
them?
Doobie
Who is
Brothers.
with-
Doobie Brothers.
Okay.
And then the other concert is
I'm not old enough to be interested in them.
and Rod Stewart will play there on August 15th.
Oh, give it up, Rod, for God's sake.
Is he going to play If You Want My Body and You Think I'm Sexy? Come on, baby, let me know. Is he going to sing that one?
Oh, Kenny knows a lot of that.
I don't know, but I know now that Patrick should cover that song. If you want my body.
Stewart's tickets go on sale this Friday through Ticketmaster, and Steely Dan tickets go on sale at noon on Friday. No prices announced. They should be announced soon.
Yes, if you want my body, I am sexy.
I see Pink is going to sing the national
Yes, she
anthem.
is. Mhm.
Are we going to have her on a trapeze in the new stadium? That would be fantastic, singing the anthem on a trapeze.
I don't think that's good.
I love Pink. I think Pink is great.
She is performing here that week.
Yeah, I
She's-
hear it.
yeah.
One of the Armory concerts? or
Correct.
what?
Yes.
Yeah.
one of
Yeah,
the
somebody
Armory
used an
concerts.
interview earlier to try to scam free tickets out of it. One of us did.
Yeah, it didn't work, but we're still going to keep trying.
Good effort, Rook.
Is this it?
There it is.
Can you lay a few lines on us, Ricey?
No, I'm not doing that.
How about it? Let's do it. If you want my body, and you like these pants that I have that are a little too tight. Trousers. Yeah, I got a little. I was over at Hal's buying these at 2 for $1. They
I
said,
miss
"You look-
Hal's."
You will look shiny on stage for the women. So that's, boys, it's all about the groupies. All about the groupies. How you doing? Anyway, how about this? Let's just go ahead Yes, I do want my body, and I'm sexy, so let's... Well, you have to at my age. All right.
Tommy Halpern, who owned Hal's, is one of the great guys of all time. Hal's, remember Hal's sweater?
They would have the nickel,
5 cents.
the nickel 5 cent deal.
And that's that second sweater, 5 cents.
I only shop at Hermes Haberdashery in downtown St. Paul. Excuse me.
Now, I got to give you a Tommy Halpern quote, okay?
Okay.
I was playing golf with him, and he's a hell of a golfer. He had a diabetic problem, and he had like two toes amputated. And we were playing with this good pro.
Trouble buying shoes, huh?
And Tommy was a Jewish fella.
Okay.
Tommy was a Jewish fella. Okay, this is a little ethnic, but I'm just back from vacation. You know? So they finish the match. He collects his money, and he says, "How do you like getting beat by an 8.5-toed Jew?" One of my favorite golf quotes of all time. Tommy Halpern, one of the great guys of all time.
They're having some problems with turkeys in a Cleveland suburb. The turkeys will not let the mailmen deliver to about a 2-block area in a suburb of Cleveland. Do you know what a group of turkeys is called, by the way, fellas?
A pack.
Yeah, not a gaggle.
Nope. It's a rafter.
A rafter.
A rafter.
I did not know that.
How would they get that?
Cleveland.com reports residents on a number of streets in Rocky River, Ohio, have had to pick up their mail at the post office because the turkeys have created what they're calling unsafe conditions for carriers.
A ruckus.
Rocky River Mayor Pam Bobst said the problem has persisted for at least 3 weeks. She said city ordinances don't allow for the turkeys to be eradicated. City has instead sent letters to people asking them to stop putting out bird feed in the hope the turkeys will just go away. U.S. Postal Service spokesperson said some carriers have been pecked at, but none have been injured.
Speaking of birds, a hawk just came flying by here, going up into they kind of hang out in the rafters of this bleachers here.
Mm-hmm.
He had dinner with him. He found something out there in the field.
Kitty cat?
It looked like a mouse maybe or something. But I think he winked at me when he came driving by. He looked like, hey, I got one. He kind of flew right by here.
You're next, big boy.
Should turn on your mic there, Rook, when you're talking.
Yeah, okay, I'll try that.
Okay, all right.
How do you find a dead cat in Fort Myers? Not a problem.
It surely wasn't a problem in Murray County, I can tell you that.
Florida authorities are sharing the details of an unusual 911 call on New Year's Eve from a man who said he wanted to report himself drunk driving.
Come and get me.
We're honest down
It's
here.
like Otis and Mayberry.
Polk County Sheriff's officials said the dispatcher kept him talking while directing officers to the scene. When the dispatcher asked Michael Lester where he was, he replied, "I'm too drunk. I don't know where I'm at." Oh. When she asked what he'd been doing all night, he said, "I don't know, driving around trying to get pulled over, actually."
Going to the Bills game.
When asked how they'd find him, he said, "Well, I'm driving on the wrong side of the road right now."
Oh.
The operator repeatedly urged him to park his truck and wait for officers to find him. That's not what he did. He finally said, "Look, you can't miss me. I'm parked in the middle of the road." Deputies said Lester admitted drinking beers and swallowing methamphetamine. Said he hadn't slept for days. The sheriff's office Facebook post said his criminal history included DUI, aggravated battery, and hit and run. They said on their Facebook page, driving under the influence is a serious crime and not usually funny. However, since nobody was hurt in this case, we couldn't help but laugh out loud.
He just didn't want to go home. That's all it was.
No.
She was waiting for him there with her broom.
She just flew in.
And I think she's justified considering his behavior, yes.
In North Dakota, my home state, authorities say a man wheeled a shopping cart full of stolen merchandise out of a Hobby Lobby craft store, but he was stopped by snow in the parking lot. Police say 22-year-old Dustin Johnson filled up a cart with about $4,000 in products at a Hobby Lobby store in Minot on Wednesday. After the cart got stuck in a snowdrift in the parking lot and tipped over, Johnson ran off. Police say that along with merchandise, unfortunately for him, he left his wallet, which contained his ID with his address.
How about their crack security at the Hobby Lobby? Don't we have anybody at the door checking here?
No, they don't hear the Hobby Lobbies. They don't have. They have the counters.
So you could just come in and steal all you want.
Sure, you could just wander out.
I didn't know what a Hobby Lobby. I've never heard of one.
It's kind
like
of
a
fun
Michael's.
kind of a fun little store.
Crafty store.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably why you've never been inside one.
My craft. I'm about 5 years from being a craft guy.
You and the sewing machine just doesn't seem like a good combo.
The Epiphany celebration in the Portuguese village of Vale de Salgueiro feature a tradition that each year causes an outcry among outsiders. Parents encourage their children, some as young as 5, to smoke cigarettes as part of the celebration. Locals say they're not sure why they do it. They say the practice has been passed down for centuries as part of the celebration of life tied to Epiphany and the winter solstice, but nobody's sure what it symbolizes or exactly why parents buy the packs of cigarettes for the kids and encourage them to take part. The 2-day celebrations, which started this past Friday and ended Saturday with a mass, include dancing around bonfires, a piper playing music, and an elected king who distributes wine and snacks. Legal age to buy tobacco in Portugal is 18, but nothing prohibits parents from giving kids cigarettes, and Portuguese authorities don't intervene to stop the practice. Portugal, like many of European countries, have taken steps to reduce smoking, including a partial ban.
Patrick, how do you introduce a 5-year-old to smoking? Do you throw him in like you would a dog off the end of the dock? Or, I mean, do you put him in gently with like menthols and Salems, or do you give him a Pall Mall and just, here you go, kiddo?
Oh, no, here's what you do.
This?
You put a lit cigarette near him and say, don't touch that. Don't touch that. And pretty soon the kid's puffing like crazy.
I was thinking blow a lot of smoke rings. Make it look fun and interesting.
That's true. I could never smoke, but that isn't because I didn't want to. Hey, I got to say one thing. I don't think we're going to have time for the Golden Globes today, but they got it right. 3 billboards and Lady Bird won the prizes, and those were the 2 best movies I saw last year. So, 3 billboards.
I didn't see either one.
Oh, Sam Rockwell is worth the price of admission in 3 billboards. Oh, he's great. He's great.
All right, well, let's come back with a recap and a preview of the ride. All right, we're going to preview the ride here, but I just want to let people know if you are looking for a place to watch the big game tonight, Shamrocks from 6 to 8, the final Dos Equis College viewing party, and you could walk away with a TCL Roku television. 6 to 8, plus we got Hammerschlagen, great eats, and all sorts of fun. 6 to 8, Shamrocks right there on West 7th. So be ready for that. Come on out tonight. Pat, what do you got going for the ride?
What do we have going for the ride? You know what?
What?
They sent this equipment down here with me.
Yeah, you sound good today.
And they included, it's fine, it's working great. They included a clock that cannot be reset, though. I think I'm going to have to throw it out.
Well, hang on there, Cowboy. Maybe somebody else could work on it rather than you instead of just throwing it out.
I'm doing my best here. What do we got coming up on the ride? We got Dave McMenamin. He covers the Cavs for ESPN. We have Rob Demoski's going to tell us about Goody's kid being the new GM of the Packers.
Ooh.
And Ben Gessling on the Vikings and the Saints. And this will all be jammed into 1.5 hours because at 5:30 we're going to Georgia, Alabama.
You are packing 5 pounds of you-know-what into a 2-pound bag.
That's right. It'll be action-packed.
Maybe something a little more pleasant.
5 pounds of fine spare ribs into a 2-pound package.
The ride is next.